comments on this?
Thank you, Chair Elmore and members of the Commission. My name is Jim Mosier. I did have a question or concern about the proposed increase in allowed height for these. If I understand the staff report, the current is a across-the-board 16-foot limit, and this state law is requiring that we go to 18 feet in some areas near transit. The staff proposal seems to be to go to 18 feet everywhere, and not only 18 feet, but with a sloped roof, you can go to 20 feet. So is the staff proposing 4 feet in excess of what the state requires by going from, in some areas it would still be 16, and we're now allowing 20. And I was a little concerned the staff report said that in staff's opinion, adding a couple of extra feet really isn't significant, so just do it everywhere. But I would suggest even adding 2 feet can be significant to some people if that new construction would block a view that they have. And 4 extra feet that the state doesn't require especially could be a concern to neighbors whose view might be blocked. So it would be good to get some clarification. Are we actually going 4 feet more than we are required to allow? Thank you.
Thank you. No other comments, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Staff, any comments to that?
Sure, I'll tackle this one. Jaime and I debated this one for several moments. You know, as you see up on the slide here, the state law requires 16 feet for single families, 18 feet for multifamilies, 18 feet if you're within half mile of transit, and 2 additional feet for a pitched roof if one were chosen to match the house. So it's fairly complicated. You know, I'm trying to keep this simple, the administration of the code simple, and so what we were proposing is 18 for a flat roof, which would otherwise be allowed for multifamily or any ADU if you're within half a mile of transit. And then the added 2 feet, which state law requires, we just thought, well, let's just tack that on there. So the answer is no. Under certain circumstances, you would get exactly this, but what we're proposing, and that is, you know, the 18 feet for multifamily and the 18 feet within half a mile of transit, plus the 2 feet. That's exactly what state law requires us to do. Where we're actually making a change, which you could look at this as an incentive, is the 4 additional feet for the single family, that top line there. Again, we're just recommending this because it simplifies a very, very complicated code, and we'd have to create a whole new column in the matrix to figure this out. And so that was our recommendation. Obviously, we can take that out and go straight with what state law requires, but you know, our recommendation is to make it simple.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions of staff? And just so we're all clear, we're making the motion that we're making tonight is to recommend what is here to go to City Council.
That's correct.
As drafted.
Since I was on that ad hoc committee, I could just kind of share a couple quick things. I mean, there's just so many different state laws that are coming down at us, and it's really, really tough to navigate. And I give all hats off to the staff that really helped us and did most of the heavy lifting there. But I think what we end up here as at least a final product for now, until the laws change again, is I think is a good direction for Newport to go and to be able to incentivize it, yet try to keep some type of conformity with ADUs and JDUs going forward.
Thank you. Thanks for being on that committee.
I did have a quick question about the height, only because I'm trying to put together, is the 3 and 12 the max, or is there some flexibility there? Because these are relatively small.
Sure.
I know this, why this is a problem, so I'm thinking about if they had to match the architecture and it's got a 5 and 12 or something like that, are they still going to be able to get to the 20 feet? I mean, 20 feet could potentially even be problematic, I would think, depending on what the...
So the 3 and 12 pitch is consistent with our zoning code. It's a minimum pitch to qualify for a slope roof. So to exceed the 18, you have to have that minimum 3 and 12 pitch. As a reminder, our current single-family zones allow for a height limit of 24 feet for flat, 29 to the ridge for a pitch roof. So this is a more restrictive standard that applies strictly to ADUs.
I guess my question was the 3 and 12, is that's the maximum, but they could do 6 and 12 as long as it was under 20 feet.
Right, they could do a steeper pitch.
Okay, that was my only question, thanks.
Commissioner Harris?
I'm sympathetic to Mr. Mosher's concerns. Is there any way, and kind of similar to the massing, I get there's kind of a sweet spot on square footage that they need to hit to make it work, but could it exceed the principal dwelling unit too? Is there any way to, say you have an old 800 square foot house and you want to put a 1,200 square foot ADU in your backyard now? That's 4 feet taller than your existing home? I'm just saying, is there any way we could constrain that? Yeah, you're building a new house essentially. So I have some concern with that of blocking views, especially if it's taller maybe than the principal home. And yeah, 4 feet, in someone's backyard, popping up next door to you is a big deal. So
Sure. I think the regulations as recommended and required by state law theoretically could change. You could have a larger ADU than the house. If you had an 800 square foot house, you could come in with an 800 square foot ADU. The elimination of that 50% rule would then provide for that. And so yes, it would be smaller than what a brand new house would be. So I think that might address some of your concerns about view blockage and what have you. Because you remember, you could tear down what's there today and replace that house unit for unit, and you could go to the full extent of the height limit, which would be very taller than this. And so I don't necessarily share your concern, but I understand it.
Any other comments or questions for staff? Does anybody want to make a motion to move this up to council?
I'll go ahead and do that. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda item number 6, which is to adopt resolution number PC 2023-004, as well as resolution PC 2023-005.
And I'll go ahead and second that. Well done, staff. Call for a vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right, moving on. Item number 7. This is just a discussion item. This is fractional home ownership code amendment. This is citywide. Staff, please proceed with your presentation.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Elmore. I'll go ahead and make this very brief presentation. Simone Georges, your Community Development Director. I'm going to be very careful what I put into the record, and I'm going to be very deliberate as what I say. The City Council has, through an A1 item, requested that the Planning Commission provide recommendations to the City Council today for regulations regarding fractional home ownership. The reality is that we're not ready to make those recommendations. There is an ad hoc committee formed with Commissioners Lee Lowry and Mark Rosine. Working with staff, the ad hoc committee has worked very hard on this subject, and we're just not prepared. The ad hoc committee is not prepared to make recommendations to the Planning Commission just yet. We're still going to continue working on this. We're not done. There's still a lot of work ahead of us. And that's all I have for as far as a brief summary. We are going to report to the City Council at the next council meeting, not Tuesday, but it's going to be the following meeting on the 24th, and report the exact same thing. The Planning Commission is just not ready to make a recommendation at this time. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Yeah. Commissioners, any questions of staff? All right. This is not a public hearing item, but we will open the public comment at this time if anybody wants to make a public comment. Mr. Mosier?
Thank you, Chair Elmore. I do have a comment. This is, as I've said before, disappointing because many members of the public were under the impression that this body, the Planning Commission, was going to make a recommendation to the City Council way back in November That is what they heard in an October city council meeting. They thought they heard a promise from the city staff that it could be got through the planning commission in a single meeting, and we'd be back to the city council with a new definition of timeshare that would include these fractional ownerships in November. So the fact that on January 24th, they're going to be heard, that there's still no recommendation, is disappointing. And that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Seeing that there's no one else in the chambers, we will go ahead and move on to item number 8. Item number 8, motion for reconsideration. Are there any motions for reconsideration? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 9, report by the Community Development Director. And for anybody to replace a matter, future matter on the future agenda.
Thank you, Chair Omar. I'll go ahead and take that report. I'll be very brief. We do have a meeting coming up on January 19th. We have 2 items slated for that and possibly a smaller third item that might come forward, and that would be on January 19th. The meeting following that is February 9th, and we intend to cancel that meeting. It's also the annual mayor's dinner, so there wouldn't be a meeting on the 9th, and then we would then come back in February 23rd, and we've got, at this point, 3 items ready to go for that. So that's my report.
Okay. Anyone from the audience want to comment on that? Okay. Moving on, item number 10, request for excused absences. We have very few of us, so I don't want to see you guys run away. Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn at 8:23.